Well, hello. Wow, what a way to start the show. Start the show choking. Okay, that's great. Real professional. Let's see here. Let me have a drink of my Coke Zero. Not paid for by Coke or Coke products to promote their stuff. I just really like it. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the Monday Night Live stream. That was hilarious. I said hello and just choked right off the bat. Well, I just wanted to say thank you for everybody for showing up. I love this Monday night fellowship that we have here, this Monday night live stream. I have done a little bit before on a Ask Me Anything, although I didn't advertise it as Ask Me Anything. It just kind of turned into an Ask Me Anything. And I just wanted to say, hey, let's do it. Let's just do a Gen X Ask Me Anything. You can ask personal questions if you want. You want to get to know me a little bit more. And when I bring on Thrash Pondo, I'm sure you might be able to ask him some personal questions if you are so inclined. But, you can ask stuff like about television shows, music, growing up, or if there's anything you just want to talk about. Tonight's the night to do it. It's very unstructured right now. I'm definitely trying to get back to doing everything the way I was doing it before. And it's just, slow moving, of course. And I know that I have these bursts where I kind of do things and then fall apart a little bit just because of time scheduling and stuff like that. One thing I am looking forward to is I am going to be applying for maybe a business credit card or something like that, just so I can spend more time doing this here because I really enjoy it. I think the biggest news that we had this week, I'm not sure if it made it on last week's program or not. Oh, no, it did. We had that explosion in about 100 new subscribers all at once over my video on Jason Bateman. And I'd like your feedback if you saw that, kind of what you thought of it. You notice that I did it a little bit differently than my other videos. I kind of started out in that video with stuff about Jason Bateman, then interrupted and talked about the channel and what we're doing here, then finished up the story. And it was a little bit of a shorter video too. And I enjoyed doing that video. And I'm not just going to be doing it with television. I'm actually kind of working on one right now, like the real reason they fired Vince Neil. And it won't always be like fired, like it won't always be like why they fired somebody, but that kind of more to the point. And then if you know my videos, what I do is I kind of introduce what we're going to talk about, then I talk about it, and then I close out the video. Where this, I kind of jumped into it and then interrupted, as I just had previously said. So anyway, we will talk as long as you guys have something for me to talk about, and as long as we want to talk. Up to, around the hour and a half mark. But if it closes out a little before that, that's okay. If it goes a little bit longer, we'll cut it off. But if we're all talking and we're having a good time, I'm here for the whole hour and a half mark. With that said, let me bring on my good friend, Thrash Pondo Pons. How you doing, Thrash?
I am doing awesome. In fact, I got big news that I have to derail the show to share with our fellowship.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Thrash Pondo now has his own swag. Yesterday, swag, yeah, shirts. Yesterday, Dave Sundstrom was talking about adding some new material to his merchandise, Cavalcade, and Lance Chafin, ever cheerleader of mine that he is, among many others, I might add, he said, why don't you do a thrash? And it was so well received. Dave, literally overnight, mind you, he created, and you can see this on his merchandise station, I guess you'd call it. It's I'm not saying it's identical, because it's not. It's a new and completely uncopyright infringement symbol, but it's Thrash Pondo with a similar logo to what one might construe as the theatrical release of Flash Gordon. But regardless of sidestepping it as much as I am, yes, I actually have my own swag now. Thank you very much to Mr. David Sundstrom.
That's really awesome. It's really awesome. It's very cool.
Thank you.
That's really awesome. That's really cool. I am very happy to hear that. We also did a show yesterday, you and I,
We
and
sure did.
Lance Chafin was on the show. What show
Yep,
did
on
we do?
Punk's channel. Yes, we did 90s action movies, and I got to tell you, Lance definitely did his homework. I had notes like I always do, but Lance he just rattles them off
He is
like
a database of
like he's got a
information.
catalog in his mind.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, I'm
Exactly.
good, but he's amazing just the way he rattles them off, and he knows the dates and everything just boom 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 boom. I was so impressed. It was so great. Of course, you had your shit together, act together too, by the way. And it's always amazing working with Tug. So it was a really solid show. But again, Lance. Oh, and Lance says that he would love to do a show of mine when I'm done with this computer course. I can actually do my own shows with guests, and you are count yourself already invited, my brother.
Oh yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. I want to be able to be on as many shows as I possibly can, and I will definitely make time to be on your show and look forward to it. I mean, this will be awesome, and we had a great time. That was my first time on Eric's channel, and I had an awesome time. It was just a blast, just kind of rattling around talking about. Action movies of the 90s, and I need to get do a show with Lance Chafin on this channel as well. I'm going to put that in the works uh,
Definitely.
as well. We should do a a podcast and a live stream as well. I know your
Definitely.
podcast schedule is kind of like not doing great right now, but we'll try to work something out.
We'll figure something out. We'll figure something out.
Yeah,
That might
so
change in the next couple of weeks. That might change.
yeah, I haven't done the podcast in a while. I need to get back to doing that again. I just need to make the arrangements and find the guests. I actually try to look up Retro Nerd Girl on several occasions. Left her a couple of messages. I can't find her. The last time I saw her on here, I mentioned her being on the podcast, and she had written in the comments section, yes, yes, yes. So, I mean, I'm figuring she's in. I just haven't been able to get a hold of her. So, if anybody out there kind of knows her, like I don't have her email, or no, do I have her email? No, I messaged her uh, on Instagram, and then I also messaged her on one of her live chats, and I didn't really hear anything back. But I don't know if I heard anything back or not, but I wasn't able to stick around to hear if there was a response. The live chat was on. I just said, "Hey, Retro Nerd Girl,
Yeah.
please respond. I'd love to hear from you."
If you
So
think that our comment section is very heartily applied to, and it is, hers is amazing. Literally every second she gets like 5 or 6 comments, and she's
right.
trying to keep up with it herself. I'm just like, boo. There were times I've actually made a comment, and by the time she gets to it, I forgot I made that comment, or at
Right.
least what I made it in context to. Oh yeah, I did say something about the man who laughs, or something. Speaking of which, how about we say some hellos for the people who've
Yeah,
been very
let's do
patiently
it.
waiting?
You're taking the words right out of my mouth.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Daryl Johnson, my other brother, says, I made the biggest mistake this morning. I watched Game of Death. Oh, Lord, that was a bad, bad, bad movie. He then goes on to say,
It is. Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
well, I was going to say, he then goes on to say, now hit the frickin' like button.
Yes, please. Thank you very much. It is a terrible movie. I am, I mean, the way that they made that movie, they made it, Bruce Lee had filmed a section of that movie, the movie where he goes up into the tower and fights a different level of people. But everything else about that movie has Bruce Lee look-alike, and one scene in it is they basically have Bruce Lee's head on a mirror and the guy's body, and a guy behind him, and literally it is a terrible show. It's the worst Bruce Lee show for sure, other than the part that Bruce Lee is actually in. um and it's a bad movie altogether. Have you seen it?
Oh, yes. And I must confess, the thing that stands out, that tower sequence is very, very good. The rest of the movie, yeah, pass. But it's worth watching just for the tower sequence imagery. And I love how when he fights Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but they do it in forced perspective. So Kareem looks to be about like 9 feet tall. I thought that was kind of slick. So again, not Bruce Lee's best movie. Of course, he made what, 4 in total? I think maybe 5.
Yeah,
5.
I can't remember.
If you included the ones that were cobbled together from found footage.
No, the let's see.
Enter the Dragon.
Well, that was
the Big
his
Boss.
last one. Yeah,
The Big Boss.
The Big Boss, Chinese Connection,
Game of Death, and
Way of the Dragon.
Thank you. I knew there was Dragon in there somewhere.
One.
Yeah. So we'll count it as 5.
Yeah.
Hey, Bruce. I'm by my tongue. Bruce Lee. James Dean
he
only made 3.
Yeah. He made he made lots of movies when he was a kid, though. He was a child actor.
Really?
Yeah, tons. Lots of movies. Lots of movies. And he's basically, what's interesting about Bruce Lee is he's basically think of this. People think of him as an action star. He's basically if Macaulay Culkin became a martial artist. That's kind of what he was like.
I would pay good money to see that. I would pay good money to see that. Yeah. Home Alone 5: The Death Connection.
Yeah. Well, no. If Macaulay Culkin, yeah, you can keep that up. If Macaulay Culkin, because he was an actor as a kid and then got out of it. Like if Macaulay Culkin became, got into martial arts and then started making martial arts movies later, it's kind of what it's like. Yeah.
Gotcha. Tracy Ross Myers isn't that hello, Tracy? I hope you're feeling better, miss. Says Daryl, I can't tell you how many times that's happened to me.
Yes. And Tracy, by the way, were you serious about sending me some cookies? So I will give you my address if you send some cookies. All right, let me know. All right. Okay.
And our cheerleader, Lance Chafin, says, hey, Tracy and Daryl.
Hey, Lance. Yes, going to have you on the show soon. We're going to think of a topic here, probably. Maybe even do the same topic.
Is it just the 3 of them in the house? I'm scrolling. Here's someone else. Zupac says, hello, Tracy. Hello, Zuper.
Hello, Zuperplex. Glad there's more people watching, but there might not be more people participating in the chat.
And Danny Staten says, greetings from South Carolina.
All right, greetings. By the way, maybe because of Danny says you have his contact info. Maybe there's a time where you can set up something to do so that we can do the wrestling one, the 80s and 90s wrestling.
Oh, yeah, sure. I'll keep in contact with you both this week.
Okay, all right, sounds good.
Oh, and speak of the devil.
Oh, yay.
Tug says hello. My brother says hello. Thank goodness for speech therapy. Sorry.
That's a good one. I had a great time on the show. Thank you, Eric, for having me on.
Crossing the door is with us. What made you go 2,000 back east? Probably not a bad idea.
Oh, he's probably talking about my move. Well, probably. So
I'm staying put.
Yeah, you're kind of new to the channel, and a lot of people here have kind of went through this experience that I went through, and I don't mind talking about it. But so in last June, my wife passed away from cancer, and I had been living in that same city since 1988, with the exception of like a couple semesters in school. And I didn't want to be in that town anymore. And I had an opportunity to pick up and move and follow some adventures, and I just thought, I sold my house, and I thought, well, this is the only time I'm going to be able to do it. So I moved. I have a friend here. That's the house that I'm staying at right now, and he invited me to come live with him, and gave me a job, and at this point, I'm more or less trying to just more or less carve out some more time for the channel at this point. But I just, I wanted to be close to kind of Nashville. I did stand-up comedy for a little while, kind of got burnt out on that rather quickly. But it was fun to just come out here and stuff. So basically that's kind of what happened. I didn't want to be in the same city and the same house anymore. So took off. Thank you though. Thank you for asking.
And Wajabeen says, hello everyone. I can't watch, but I am listening.
All right, Wajameen. I'm glad you're listening at least. I'm so happy you are joining us today. Awesome.
Zupac says, for me, Jason Bateman is one step above Matthew Broderick, whom I hate.
I know you said that. I remember you saying that last week. You said they're about the same, but I don't know what's to hate about them, quite honestly. I mean, I love both of them immensely. So we all have different tastes and different flavors, and I get it. But like objectively, I just don't see it. I love Matthew Broderick, and I love Jason Bateman. I think they're both fine actors. And I think they do relatively good movies. So, but well, I mean, the Matthew Broderick did, that remake of Godzilla that wasn't the best. I get that. He's been more of a B movie actor since the
Lady
80s. Ferris Bueller's Day Off was great, and
mid 80s. We're talking like the same time frame. Yeah.
But I could understand some of those movies. But Jason Bateman, though, I mean, come on, man, he's in some of the best movies ever. I love and Arrested Development, my favorite show. One of them. So I don't understand it. I mean, but I get it. I respect everybody has their own right to think what they want to think. So
Amanda Smart says, hi, everyone.
Hello, Amanda. How are you doing?
And Cindy D also says, hello, everyone. Hello, Cindy.
Hello, Cindy.
Well. I'm scrolling down rapidly.
Cindy? Okay.
Oh, look who else is here. Boom. John Cole's in the house.
Hey.
Just talking about you, man.
We were just talking about you. We were just like, man, I hope that I mentioned to Thrash off channel that I had talked to you on a personal chat, and was praying for you and stuff. So anyway. I hope you're all right. Hope you're doing good. And I'm so happy, elated you're on the channel. And then Amanda, love you.
Oh, that's sweet. John goes on to say, Bob, I have already purchased the t-shirt. Is flying its way to my home as we speak. John, you are one of my biggest supporters, and I thank you. Oh, and Shock Theater is here. He says another like. We all know who our friend Shock Theater is, don't we? Wink, wink.
Wink, wink. Yes, wink, thank you, yes. Shock Theater.
It's Appreciate Wink Martindale. Sorry. Terrell Eugene Bellinger is in the house. Says hello,
Terrell. Absolutely.
Do you miss me?
I've 100%, 150%. I love the questions you give. I love them. I love the questions you give, and I'm very interested in what you think about the format I did with the Jason Bateman video. So please let me know. So you were going to be somebody that talked about like sometimes like it takes a couple weeks for me to say something when somebody's gone and stuff. So I was just thinking about you. I was thinking if he's not back this week, I'm going to say something about it on the next one. So you definitely are in our thoughts. So yes, please.
And the Unapologetic Geek says, Lance, I was thinking we could talk about post-apocalyptic movies. I know Thrash would be down, and I could pay off that T2Ts. You already count me in. So anyone else who's in,
you could count me in. I don't know if 4 people is too cumbersome on your channel, but if I'm available, I would love to do that as well. So yeah, post-apocalyptic movies, we love them. We love them. Let's do it. Okay. All right.
definite. And Lance Chafin says, "Miss the Glitter Boom Girls. Have you talked to them recently, Ian?"
I have not. I thought about trying to get them out of. I don't think they're due. I think they did one new show since like they were popular back then. I still, Robbie Ann McPherson still posts fairly regularly on Instagram. But their show I just haven't seen anything from their show. But I actually thought about contacting them because what I would like to do is a girls' toys episode. Like My Pretty Pony and Rainbow Bright and all those girls' toys in the 80s. So I've thought about it several times and I've just never made the contact. I will definitely make the contact. So I miss them quite a bit. They were a bright shining star. But again, we have to remember, this is one of those things about YouTube and doing podcasts that a lot of people don't let you know. You're not making any money right away. You're not really, you have to do it there are so many channels that were fantastic. 3-4 episodes, maybe a year at the most, and then they're gone. Because again, you're just doing this on the side. And for some people, they just do it as a project for fun. And then they're done with it. I think of who was that other girl that did the review of 80s movies? She did 80s movies reviews, and she did Miami Vice reviews. Forgot her name. When she said when Gen X ruled the multiplex. I don't know if you remember. Name. Yeah. She was really good. But she did 100 movies. She did a review of 100 movies. She did a review of Miami Vice, and then that's it. She was kind of done with the project. So, I mean, sometimes people are like that. They just they get done with they do something and then they're done with that project.
Well, I know Robbie did a radio show trivia contest, and she did really well. I played along in replay, and that was the last thing I saw them post. And I gave her a message saying, "Great job," and she said, "Oh, thanks, Thrash." And I was looking to see and I think that was the last thing they actually posted, and that was actually a few months ago.
Yeah.
Oh, Teb has a request. Ian, would you please consider covering the criminally underrated 1989 to 1997 ABC sitcom Coach in a future 5 Things video?
I will consider it. I will consider it. I'm a tad bit drifting away from the 5 Things. I'm not going to say I'm not going to come back to it. Right now, I'm kind of going with a little bit more hooky stuff, like that why Jason Bateman got fired from Silver Spoons. And the next video that I'm going to have is why Vince Neil got fired from Motley Crue. And then I might do one like on a movie, like why Tom Cruise turned down this role or something like that, but I do like those things, and I am going to do them eventually. It's just going to take some time, but that's a good one. I almost did 5 Things You Didn't Know About Silver Spoons, but then I thought, okay, I had just like a shorter amount of time, so I did more of a 3-minute video than like a 12-minute video. So yeah, it's on the list, and the X-Files one's on the list too. So consider it on the list. It's a question of time, but thank you for the suggestion.
And 420 is here. Says hello, everyone.
Hello, 420. I wonder what 420 means.
Well, there's a couple of things.
No, I'm kidding. I think with the marijuana leaf on his thing there.
I think it's the less hate-filled of the two in his case. Yes. Welcome 420. Welcome 420.
Welcome. Yeah,
I'm from Massachusetts. It's legal here. Zupac says, you wouldn't believe how much the Hong Kong film industry milked Bruce Lee's death. in quickly made Z-grade production with actors whose names were similar to Bruce Lee. Yeah, I know there was Bruce Lie. There was Bruce Lee, Lie. They did all kinds of really unethical things with that, I remember. Let's see who else we got going on here. I don't want to make sure we don't skip over anybody. So if I miss a question, bear with me. Oh, here's another person. Crazy Joe's concession stand. We all make concessions to the war, don't we? I love Jason Bateman. I was a huge Hogan Family fan.
Yes, yeah, I was too. Jason Bateman, and then hello, Crazy Joe's. Is that Crazy Joe's concession stand? Is that the same as the other Crazy Joe that was on the? Maybe not. Anyway, but thank you, Crazy Joe, for joining us today. Hogan's Family was really good. It was actually called, wasn't it? It was called Valerie. Then it was called Valerie's Family. And then it was called the Hogans. I think it was kind of how it went.
You're pretty close. It was something like that. Yes.
Yeah, because what do you call it? Valerie's Family. It's just like, okay.
And Denny Staten says, LOL, the remake of Godzilla to me was Matt's best movie to be.
Well, I mean, if you liked it, you liked it. I mean, that's awesome.
It's like we said yesterday. If they had called it Big Iguana Eats New York, I could have had fun with it. They called it Godzilla, and the monster was not. Right. It was a big iguana. So I think, to me, they put themselves behind the 8 ball with their attempt to reinvent the kaiju.
I think they wanted to give some like scientific credibility to it, make it kind of like a Jurassic Park kind of thing where it was like an actual dinosaur rather than, this Godzilla kind of thing. It didn't work. I mean, obviously it's looked upon by a lot of people as not the best Godzilla movie out there. And of course, should it even have the title Godzilla?
Well, you know what I did like about it was the best part of the whole movie was Jean Reno as the head of the French Special Forces. He stole the movie. I know he was intended as a comic relief, but the scene where they're having the intelligence thing going on and he pulls out a bagel and says, "No croissant." And the kid's like, and then he takes a sip of his coffee and he spits it on the carpet. He goes, "What the hell is this?" And the guy goes, "They called it French roast." I thought that was hysterical. And the scene where they're in American military uniforms, which is technically espionage. But one of the things they issue, each soldier gets a stick of gum. And Matthew Broderick says, "What's with the gum?" And he goes, "It makes us look more American." And by God, it did. They did. So I thought he was good. Everyone else, they were trying. Matthew Broderick, he tried to give a good performance in an otherwise appallingly written movie. And the guy from The Simpsons, the guy who was married to Helen Hunt, whose name eludes me for the moment. Hank Azaria. Thank you, Mrs. Suresh. Hank Azaria. I thought Hank Azaria put his heart in that part. So, I mean, it did have its moments. It just wasn't a Godzilla movie.
Yeah. Well, to be perfectly honest, I have to say I didn't hate it. I thought it was really good. So
I hated it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm a snub. Oh, and Tug goes on to say, I love Broderick in War Games, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, The Election. I think he's actually underrated as an actor, but he really gets a chance to show his range.
Yeah, well, leave that back up for a second, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Of course,
yes. Yeah, I mean, War Games is seriously a good show. I mean, a good movie. I mean, that's one of my favorite movies from that era. And I think he did an excellent job. And that Ferris Bueller's Day Off is phenomenal. I think when you think of Matthew Broderick, it's hard to not think of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That's the first thing that comes to my mind anyway. But one of the more underrated shows he did was Election. Did you see Election?
That I haven't seen. So I'll have to take your word for it.
It's very boy, I don't know what kind of movie you would call it. It's It's good though. It's very good. It's 90s, it's a good movie. I really enjoyed it. You'll have to give it a tumble there. So
Oh, Amanda Smart goes on to say, "I love you too, handsome." Sorry,
all right.
I had to read that one. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one. Zupac says, "Sorry, unapologetic, but it seems like Matthew Broderick goes out of his way to appear in horrible movies."
I'd like some examples. I mean, of the horrible movies. There was one movie. I think it was called Out on a Limb. Did you ever see that one with Matthew
No,
Broderick?
no, I haven't seen that one.
It's funny. It's a comedy. It's a comedy of errors kind of show where like one thing goes wrong, then another thing goes wrong, then another thing goes wrong, kind of a thing. I thought it was very funny. But of course, it was another '90s movie, not well received. I have no idea how well it held up. I don't know if I would like it today, but I do remember laughing my butt off watching that show. So, all right.
Crazy Joe's concession stand says, "Great post-apocalyptic movie from 1998, Six String Samurai." Ian, have you seen that one?
No, no.
I own it.
Oh,
It's
do you?
action. It's amazing. It's sort of a musical comedy action post-apocalyptic farce, and it works on all those levels. Basically, the guy is a Buddy Holly style musician, going through a post-apocalyptic wasteland, trying to be a hero. It's like something out of an old Kurosawa film, and he runs afoul of the remnants of because it takes place in a post-World War III landscape. He runs afoul of the remnants of like a Soviet invading army, and hilarity ensues. I don't want to tell you too much about it, but I could really sink my teeth into Six String Samurai, and it's so nice to see somebody who's actually familiar with it, because that one kind of fell through the cracks.
Cool.
And let's see what else we got here. Oh, you guys are speaking my language. 42420 says, "Night of the Comet qualify?"
Absolutely. Absolutely. It qualifies. That's one of our favorite post apocalyptic movies. One of my absolute all time favorite post. I used to dream of that. I mean, it was a little morbid as a kid. I mean, the dream that you'd wake up and your family's dead, but you got to survive and you get to go through all the stores and pick out anything you want. I mean, I really wouldn't want it to happen, obviously, but I have to say that there was part of me that used to fantasize about waking up and finding out only a few people are alive, and you've got to make it in this world. So
I actually do a review of that film on my channel, and not only is it one of my favorite post-apocalyptic films, you do Josh. I always get his name wrong. Josh Whelan actually used the Sam character as a template for Buffy from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
oh, okay.
Only vampires instead of zombies. But you know what else that film works even equally well as a post-apocalyptic film?
No.
It's a holiday film. It is a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
And right. I make an excellent case of that in my channel. So as far as holiday post-apocalyptic films go, Night of the Comet has got to be my favorite.
Well, remember they could do that today, but they'd have to change it. I remember one scene in there where when they were realizing that everybody was dying or everyone was dead, they're like
dying dead.
Yeah, they're dead. Sorry, they're all the kids. They're like
some were dying, some were dead.
Yeah, they were like, where are the kids? Like, it's Saturday. What, don't you see there's something wrong? Where are the children? Today would be like, well, they're all inside playing video games. And also, of course, there's no children out. But in the 80s, yeah, that's what you did. You went outside and you rode your bike and rode your skateboard, and maybe you had that big old football game that people played, or a Simon Says or something like that. But that was about it. You were outside as a kid.
Oh, and Excellent point here. 420 goes on to say, I like that one, Lance. Also loved USA Up All Night. USA Up All Night brought some of the best schlock the 80s had to offer. It certainly did.
It's good stuff.
And Cindy D says, I missed your live with Geek. I'll watch it later, Lance Chafin. Please do. Lance was absolutely outstanding. I think we were all on point, but Lance was outstanding.
Well, he's just a database of information when it comes to those movies. He kept like rattling off, and we didn't know, and we're like, oh, and then he would say it, and then like turned out to be right, and I'm like, oh, I could have swore I was right about that, but yeah, I mean, I had a great time.
Oh, Lance Chafin brings up a good one. Cindy, who's the master? Show enough.
Oh my goodness! Now, oh wait, you can't.
Sorry.
Take these away so quickly.
Sorry.
It's all right. Bad thrash. Bad. Yeah, show enough. Obviously, one of the best martial arts shows. Cheesy as all get out. Have you seen The Last Dragon?
Oh, you kidding? I love The Last Dragon.
Oh yeah, it's one of my favorite. I probably have asked you that before.
That's what I was going to, because Daryl Jones goes on to say Last Dragon was pretty good. I love The Last Dragon.
It definitely renewed my interest in martial arts, at that time. That one and The Karate Kid. So loved it. Yes, go on.
Well, it's like if MTV was to do Kung Fu theater, it would have been The Last Dragon. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, Berry Gordy produced the thing, didn't he?
I believe you're right.
I believe it was. So, yeah, it's just a great film. Again, it's a farce, but it is one of those quintessential 80s cult movies that's just so much fun to watch, especially now. It was fun back then, but now with these deep waves of nostalgia where we can actually look back and sort of giggle at the fashion and the hair and the catchphrases. Those old 80s movies are so much fun. Like the other night when I was watching Repo Man. Repo Man, by the way, is the quintessential 80s movies. If you want to sit down and see a movie that will give you a feel of what the 80s were like, at least in spirit, if not methodology, you got to see Repo Man. They're just so much fun to watch.
Did you watch Kid Video? Did you ever see that? The cartoon Kid Video?
Yeah, I watched Kid Video.
Did not the bad guy in Last Dragon remind you of the bad guy in Kid Video? That's kind of what I thought when I watched Kid Video. I'm like, well, they kind of took that character and they made him a cartoon, and then they did Kid Video. So,
yes, I can see that definitely. And I think they're both based on the Princess Bride villain. Inconceivable.
Yeah, very much so.
I guess short, bald men were the bad guys back in the 80s. We'll call that the Danny DeVito conundrum.
Right. Call it something.
Tab says, which classic 80s female-centric sitcom do you prefer better? Facts of Life, Kate and Alley, The Golden Girls, or Designing Women?
Okay, good question. I will have to go with, it would probably change if I watched these shows now, but I would have to go Facts of Life #1 because I just grew up on it and I loved it. Of course, watching Facts of Life today is completely cringy. Second one would have to be Kate and Alley. I did not watch it as faithfully as I watched Facts of Life. But every time I watched it, I really enjoyed it. And I do remember it fondly. Golden Girls would have to be #3. I didn't really like Golden Girls, but I mean, if I'm ranking them, I have to rank them. So the Golden Girls, I watched it probably more than I watched Kate and Alley, because it was on, I don't know, it was on at a time that the TV was on. So I got to see it more often. But didn't always care for it. Now, I've watched Golden Girls now, and I enjoy it much more now because of the cutting sarcasm in that show is just great. It's just very funny. Designing Women, I couldn't stand Designing Women. I hated Designing Women when it was on. However, I have not watched Designing Women today, and my opinion of designing women might change. And actually, it probably would change. Probably now, I would say Golden, even though Golden Girls I didn't care for back then, probably Golden Girls, like if I watch Golden Girls today and Facts of Life today, I would probably rank Golden Girls first, again, just because of that cutting sarcasm that they all had with each other. And I love that. Kate and Allie, I have no idea. I remember liking it back then, and I remember liking it better than Golden Girls, but I haven't seen an episode recently, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. Go ahead, Thrash.
Well, for some reason, I really like Kate and Allie. I don't know if I just thought the cast all work together or what, but I remember I really like Kate and Allie. Golden Girls, I also like very, very much. Designing Women, I used to watch it with my mom. She loved it. And I like some of the characters, so I kind of got into Designing Women. That would be second tier after the first two, which would be tied. Don't hate me, but I never watched Facts of Life. I remember that first season when it was this big ensemble cast of characters.
Yeah.
When it came back for the second season and they fired like 2/3.
Yeah.
And then brought in Joe, who I could never stand. I just stopped watching it. It was almost like they fired all my friends, and I was never able to watch it after that. People's like, no, you don't understand. It got so much better, and I go, well, it got better without me. Good luck with it. So I never watched it, and I mean, if people watched it, that's great. I'm not going to knock it if they enjoyed it, but to me, it wasn't the same show after that.
Your protest is duly noted.
Yeah, basically.
You should write a letter. You should write a letter to him. And say,
only 40 years too late. Yeah. John Collins says, Bob and Ian, in the new Swath, Trunch, Spade, and or bundle of items, which now adorns Mr. Sundstrom's online store, he has a shirt about pickleball. Does that relate to the community somehow? If so, how?
I don't think it really relates to community. I think maybe Dave just likes to play it. But I don't know for sure. Dave has never brought up pickleball to me. So I have no idea. Thrash, do you know?
Well, I wear this Pickle Rick hat routinely. And that's the closest connection I can come up with. I've heard pickleball red reverence. I've heard the pickleball referred to, but I can think of no connection. So sorry, I don't have more insight, John. I think it's just a cool sounding term.
Yeah.
Oh, and Crazy Joe goes on to say the recently deceased Michael Lerner played Mayor Ebert in the 1998 Godzilla flick. He certainly did.
Yeah.
Let's just see what else we got here. Zupac says it premiered in 1979, but aired for the better part of the 80s. He's been referring to Facts of Life. Daryl Jones says, okay, John, Bob will get to your comment when he sees it the first time. Actually, you're right. Sorry it took me so long to get to it, John. We actually were way behind in the comment section, and I feel we're still actually way behind because somebody tells me there's a lot more to go through. So, but yes, forgive me if I'm taking time to get to your comments. I will get there eventually. Oh, Lance does bring up an excellent point. Matthew Broderick in Gloria with Morgan Freeman and Denzel. That's an excellent movie, certainly.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, definitely excellent movie for sure.
Oh, and Tracy brings up an excellent question. My question is, why does Godzilla always attack Japan? I'll let you answer it first, and then I'll give the answer.
Well, I'm going to pass this one to you because isn't it? It's a Japanese thing, right?
It is a Japanese thing, a very Japanese thing, because specifically, here's the situation. In fact, I was just talking with somebody on Facebook about this. Toho Studios didn't start out making monster movies. They made wartime dramas, or what were referred to as anti-war films, because after World War II, Japan's constitution and the American occupation forces forbid them from making any movies which glorified war. So Toho sort of specialized, although not exclusively. They made films that vilified war and were like dramas and heartfelt movies that made you feel bad about the human condition, and usually had to film those in tropical settings. The irony being, a lot of the countries they had to film in were ones they had actually occupied during the war, like, say, I don't know, the Philippines. So here's the situation. Toho would take its cast and crew and everything. It would go to the Philippines or Indonesia or whatever. And these governments at times would, dare not I say, blackmail. What they would try to do is they would try to get extra funds out of the Japanese studio. You guys have a visa problem. Oh, you guys want to film during daylight? There's a daylight filming fee. Because they were trying to gouge the studio for, in their mind, I guess, revenge from the war. Well, one time they were going to, again, I think it was the Philippines, and right before they left, they got a message from the local government saying, "Oh yeah, there's a problem with your main star's passport. We're going to need a 10,000 yen emergency passport fee." And Toho said, "You know what? I'm out. We'll stay here. We'll make a different movie. We have the studio. We have a budget. We have a cast and crew. We have everything except a script." Now, here's where the truly Japanese thing comes in. Now, of course, as we all know, very sadly, Japan to this day is the only nation which has been attacked by atomic weapons. Indeed, additionally, right around the early 50s, there was actually what they called a third attack. America had an above-ground test of a hydrogen bomb in an area they thought was secure, like there was going to be no people in it. But they kept the mission on a super, super duper hush-hush case. So much so, they didn't bother to tell anyone. And this long-range Japanese fishing boat was actually in the test area. All the seamen got sick, and before they realized what had happened to them, that fish had gone to market and been sold. So it sort of like caused the Japanese to have to relive the attack all over again. And what had happened was a writer who had felt that the atomic attacks needed some kind of catharsis says, "Well, here, I have a movie script idea. It's loosely based on The Foghorn by Ray Bradbury, but I'm giving it a twist. It's going to be a mutant monster that was spawned by the atomic bomb. So basically, Godzilla is the atomic age incarnate, and how that attacked Japan, and how Japan had to defend itself from this monster, and in some ways defended the world from it." So now that was all off the cuff. I will get off the soapbox.
no, heck, that was super interesting. Awesome.
Thank you.
Dropping some knowledge on us.
I'm a Godzilla buff. What can I say?
Right.
So,
right.
Tracy, I hope that does answer your question. And let's see. And Lance brings up another point. Facts of Life with a young Molly Ringwald. Yes, she was in that first season, to wit, I discussed.
And they did cut her. That was one of the characters they cut.
Yep,
was Molly
she was
Ringwald.
one of the ones they cut. Oh, and Lance Javen also mentions Biloxi Blues was a good movie. It actually really was.
Yeah.
And was that not actually based on Neil Simon's some of his experiences in boot camp while he was getting ready to go off to fight the Second World War personally?
I have no idea.
A lot of World War II discussion tonight, huh, folks?
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, Teb asks, which criminally underrated 90s sitcom do you prefer better? News Radio, Drew Carey Show, Third Rock from the Sun, Just Shoot Me, or Dharma and Greg?
Okay, well, anything with so number one is going to be Just Shoot Me. I loved it at the time, and I love David Spade. I think David Spade's just the comedic genius. I'm a huge fan. I've always been a huge fan, as anybody knows here on the channel. So, I mean, Just Shoot Me is going to come in at number one. I really enjoyed that. The other ones is going to be kind of difficult for me. I'd probably put Dharma and Greg last, not because it wasn't good. It's just that I didn't really ever really get into it all that much. And Third Rock from the Sun, I thought was phenomenally hilarious. The Drew Carey Show was hilarious. Probably the second one that I was most faithful to watch was News Radio, just because it had Dave Foley in it, and I was a big fan of Kids in the Hall. So, so I guess it would have to go Just Shoot Me, number one, News Radio, probably Third Rock from the Sun, not because it's any better than the Drew Carey Show, but just because I think I watched it more faithfully than the Drew Carey Show. Drew Carey was one of those shows that I kind of watched on and off as it was on. But great show. And then Dharma and Greg last. I actually really did love Dharma and Greg, but I just didn't have time for it. Again, 90s was a little bit of a turbulent time for me to watch TV, young adult, out with friends, and not really hey, this is the time we sit down and watch TV kind of a thing. So anyway, that's
I would actually say I would put News Radio first. I absolutely love News Radio. Oh, and one thing I've noticed about these, at least the ones that I actually watch faithfully, Teb, is that they all have amazing ensemble casts that worked really, really well together. And I think that's what made all of these shows. It wasn't simply one stand-up person and a backdrop. Even the Drew Carey Show, which was all about Drew Carey, he worked so well with his co-stars. And
yes.
But News Radio would be one.
Okay.
Number two would be Just Shoot Me. I thought that show just worked on so many levels. It was just a very, very, very funny show. After that, I would say the Drew Carey Show and Third Rock were pretty equal. I liked them. I thought some of them had some really, really great moments. I was just talking to my wife. One of the funniest, and I think I've talked about it with you guys before, one of the funniest episodes, I think, of American television, or at least tropes, it's the Drew Carey Show, and their old band teacher had passed on, and Drew wants to do a sort of a benefit for her. You later found out he had actually had an intimate relationship with her at one point, which I know is a no-no, but in the spirit of the show, it was considered humorous. But he's trying to put all these feelings together, and he needs to come up with a song that the band can do that would really commemorate her passing. And Oswald says, "Why don't we do The Night Chicago Died and sing Mrs. Havershap instead of Chicago?" And I sang the entire song in my head, and my lungs were collapsing. I was laughing so hard. I heard my mama cry. I heard her pray the night Mrs. Havershap died. And it was one of the funniest things I had ever seen. Equal to something I saw in Third Rock from the Sun, where it's like they took a concept and built a show around it. William Shatner was playing their leader, who comes by on sort of a shakedown mission to see how they're doing. And John Lithgow said, "So, leader, how was your trip?" And he goes, "What was the darndest thing? There was this thing on the wing the whole time." And John Lithgow goes, "I had the exact same experience." Both of them had done renditions of Terror at 10,000 feet. And it was like...
Oh, wait a minute. Was it Terror? It was the
it was the Twilight Zone episode.
The Twilight Zone, yes.
Terror he was in the
original, and then Lithgow was in the remake.
In the movie, in the 1984 movie. And it might be Terror at 30,000 feet. It's a Terror at some number of feet, but everyone knows the episode I'm talking about. Sadly, I never watched Dharma and Greg, so I'm going to have to abstain on that one. I think it was on against another show that I watched, so I never had the chance to watch it. So I will bow out there. But that's of what I did see. That's my ranking system.
Hang on one second. Hang on 1 second. I don't know where we are in there. I just was scrolling through and I saw that Dave is with us, and I just want to say hi to Dave. And I know there are other people joining, and we're going to say hi to you as we get to it. But as it's on my mind, I need to say, Dave, we need to do a show. We haven't done one in so long. I have a great idea. I want to do boomer shows that Gen Xers love and why. And so I think we need to get together to do a podcast and do a live show on it as well. It's been a long time, my friend. Let's make it happen. If you can, by all means, let's try to make that happen, because I would love to have you back on the show. It's been a long time.
And thanks for the swag, Dave. I'm ordering 2.
Right.
Now, Cindy D just brought up that she wanted us to know that I said Last Dragon first, guys, and yes, Barry Gordy did produce. So thank you for confirming that. I thought he did, but thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Cindy.
And Crazy Joe says USA Up All Night and Monster Vision with Joe Bob Briggs. I loved Monster Vision. I was devastated when they got rid of it.
I never saw Monster Vision.
Oh, it was like USA's answer to late night horror movie shows.
Okay,
they would take a great old horror movie, and Joe Bob Briggs would do little vignettes during the commercial bumpers. Tom Levery is here. Tom, how you doing?
Tom, how you doing, buddy?
He says hi, Ian Thrash and everyone.
Hello, Tom.
Oh, Daryl Jones says Six String Samurai is on YouTube with subtitles. Did not know that.
Cool.
Ooh, Superplex throwing down the gauntlet. The quintessential 80s movie would be Working Girl.
Cool. I mean, I don't know what the quintessential 80s movie would be, but I would say I would not argue that Working Girl isn't it. I mean, I would say sure.
It's a good movie, and it certainly has an 80s feel to it. And I love Alec Baldwin's minor part as the skeeve. I also like your typical office politics and the changing gender roles in this country. I don't know if I'd go to say quintessential, but you could certainly make a valid case. I certainly enjoyed the film. And Tug says, my brain always goes to Secret of My Success when I tried to think of quintessential 80s movies.
Good one. I mean, anything with Michael J. Fox in it is going to be definitely really good for 80s movies. Unfortunately, he made some movies in the 90s that weren't as highly ranked, but I actually loved them. I think we made like the one where he adopts the little girl or something like that, and then the one with the hotel. Great. Those were great movies. But The Secret of My Success was a really cool show. And again, wouldn't argue about, I don't have a choice as far as what's a quintessential 80s movie. I would say The Working Girl is one. I would say The Secret of My Success is one. I mean, if an alien came to our planet and said, I want to watch one movie from the 80s, could you please point it out? I couldn't. I don't know if I could. I mean, that would be a tough decision for me.
Fair enough. But again, there are aliens in Repo Man. So speaking of which, Zupac says, I think Repo Man was a lightweight version of Cheech and Chong. You're really throwing down the gauntlet tonight, aren't you?
You're stirring the pot, buddy. You are stirring the pot.
Zoop, I love you. It's all good fun. Let's just see what else we got going on here. Tug says the Golden Girls probably holds up the best. He might be right. He might be right.
I think out of all those shows that could go, but I haven't seen Kate and Allie though for since it was on. So I would definitely like to see Kate and Allie and then make that decision. But I will definitely agree with you that Golden Girls holds up way better than Facts of Life, even though I really liked Facts of Life back then a little bit better. So.
I had never heard this. Apparently, Cindy D says Molly Ringwald said Nancy McKeon took her job.
I think Nancy McKeon took everybody's job who got fired there. I mean, basically, she got fired and a couple other people got fired, and Nancy McKeon stepped in. Yeah.
And Dave Sundstrom says, I do love pickleball.
Cool. Right on. When I get up there next, we'll have to play. I'm hoping to get up there in August.
Let's just see what. Here's one. Crazy Joe says, when I interviewed Gil Gerard, he went off on a tangent about cornhole. It was surreal. You interviewed Gil Gerard? That's amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing. That is really cool. But yeah, that's really excellent. That's cool.
About 40 years ago, Gil Gerard did a documentary about the history of science fiction, and I've been looking for it for about 40 years. I think it was actually aired on HBO, which is probably part of the problem, but I haven't been able to find it on YouTube. I haven't been able to find an IMDb about it. I'm starting to think it wasn't even Gil Gerard, but it was this amazing uh, documentary. And again, it went from the silent era science fiction right up to, I think it was right when Empire Strikes Back had just come out.
Mhm.
So it's probably a little dated by this point, but
Dave just did a video on Gil Gerard on why he
yes, he
almost
sure
didn't
did.
take. It was a really good video.
Crazy Joe says, I hold a grudge against Toho. My channel was originally called Mega Godzilla
Yes,
until Toho hit me with a cease and desist. Ouch.
I remember that. I remember us talking about that. Yeah,
Ouch.
yeah, that sucked.
That
I
happened to
hold a
somebody
grudge
else.
too.
Somebody else had a show, a channel called the Godzilla Hour or something like that, and Toho made it. I guess it's not uncommon for Toho to do that, but I'm very, very sorry. Oh, Tug actually might have some insight on it. Tug says Crazy Joe Toho is the worst with copyright disputes. It's one of the reasons why I cover their movies so infrequently. I heard, was it Ben Tenhold? He's a film reviewer, and he did a. Forgive me if I get some of the facts in here wrong, but he did one for Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, and Toho took it down because of copyright infringement. They said it was showing images from Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, and he goes, "I'm reviewing it for you. I'm actually promoting it.
Right.
How can I do that without actually adding imagery?" So,
By the way, Crazy Joe, I know that's not your name. I forgot what your name is because I keep hearing Crazy Joe. If you want to be back on the show, please let me know. I mean, I'd love to have you. Please get in contact with me if you have an idea for an episode 2, something we can both kind of talk about. Let me know. Would love to have you back on the show. I only had you on once, so let's do it again, man.
and Zebra Libra, I love the name Zebra Libra. Zebra Libra says, "Hello there."
Hello, Zebra Libra. Glad you could be joining us.
And Tom says, "Just saying hi at work."
Hey, how you doing,
Hey, Tom.
Tom?
How you doing, Tom? And Sean Innes is here. It says, "Was just reading that another sailor that was on the USS Arizona has just passed away at 102. There is now only one surviving sailor left." Little bit of World War II news. Sean, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I think the gentleman who just died was, in fact, the last survivor of the Arizona. I could be wrong, but if I remember correctly, another World War buff told me that, in fact, he was the last one. So that would be very, very sad. Oh, let's see what else we get going on here. Oh, here's another person. I just want to make sure I get to everyone who even said hi to. Ken Wilkinson is in the house, says, "Good evening, Dave."
And
I assume
good
that means to us too.
evening, Kenneth. Yes, from all of us to all of you. Good evening.
Zupac says he was called the Big Giant Head.
Yeah,
the leader of Third Rock.
the leader in the Third Rock. I remember that big giant head. I'm a big fan of the. Who was the kid on? What's his name? The youngest kid that was on Third Rock from the Sun. Gordon Levitt.
Thank you. Yeah, he was in 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah, one of my favorite movies of all times is 500 Days of Summer. Have you ever seen 500 Days of Summer?
I have not.
It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. I love that movie. And has a fantastic soundtrack to it. And he plays the lead, and I really enjoy that movie. It's called 500 Days of Summer because it's the girl that he falls in love with at work. Her name's Summer, and they date for 500 days.
So a year
and it's it's basically like shot not in sequence. It's in and out of sequence, and it is a really good movie. And there's almost like a soundtrack for each one. It's not 500 scenes per se. It's just like day 371, and it shows like a bad day where they're, things aren't going well. And then the next one's like day 9, and then it's like a really good, they're just kind of getting together and meeting, and then day, anyway. So it's a very good show. It's one of those shows that I can't recommend enough. Like some bands I can't recommend enough, like a band called Brand New.
Are they a Christian band, by the way?
No,
because I found a Christian band called Brand New, and I go, this has Ian written all over it. But I will continue my search.
They do have some. They do have I guess the lead singer and the songwriter in the band was raised Christian, but it's not a Christian band. And there is a song called Jesus Christ.
Oh, then I was with them. Oh, okay. They're not a Christian band. They sound like a Christian band. Well, no. I was listening to them today. So yes, I heard that song. Yes,
you did. Oh, did you like that song?
I did like it, but I was afraid it was the wrong band. So, no. But yes, it was a nice song. It was a nice song. But thank you. I told you I would persevere.
Excellent. That's one of their best albums too. That's called "The God and Devil Are Raging Inside Me,"
which is why I thought they were a Christian band. That sounds like a Christian album if I ever heard one.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I lost something here that was important. Let's just see here. Tab says, which show from the early years of Fox do you prefer better? Married with Children, The Tracy Ullman Show, 21 Jump Street, Cops, America's Most Wanted, Simpsons, or In Living Color?
Oh, man. Well, listen, Teb, you ask the best questions and you keep this ball rolling, and I love you being here. This one is going to be the number 1 and 2 position are going to be real easy for me. And then this is a tough one though. Okay. So I would say number 1, Married with Children, without a doubt, hands down, loved it. One of the few shows that changed TV forever. And got us off of our soapboxes and just had a good time watching television. So Married with Children would be number 1. I would say number 2 is going to be The Simpsons. I love The Simpsons. I haven't watched it as faithfully. I mean, it's been like on for 30 years. I haven't watched it as faithfully probably in the last 10 or 15 years as I used to, but it is hilarious. Love it. Okay, so for me, then this is going to be kind of sad because I mean, if you watch 21 Jump Street now, it's very cheesy. It's super cheesy. I've gone back and watched it, and but I loved it at the time. I mean, I loved 21 Jump Street. So I would say number 3 position would be 21 Jump Street. Then the Tracy Ullman Show. And then probably Living Color, and then Cops. Probably I liked America's Most Wanted better than Cops. Those are more 2 drama shows, and I was more into. I still am, mostly more into comedy. So, but I love America's Most Wanted. I like true crime stuff. But Cops, I mean, it's interesting, but it just, I mean, I don't know. I couldn't hold on to Cops for very long. Good show. I mean, interesting when it came out. Great concept. But I think America's Most Wanted is the better program there. I almost might put America's Most Wanted in front of In Living Color, but I don't know for sure. It would really just depend upon the day. Cops would certainly be last though. So that's how I would rank them. What about you, Thrash?
I'm pretty close. I would put America's Most Wanted up a little bit higher. Married with Children, definitely number 1. Simpsons, definitely number 2. Jump Street, really close third. I loved that show back in the day. I was actually watching Jump Street when the Gulf War broke out. They preempted Jump Street to let us know that we had attacked Iraq. I'd probably put America's Most Wanted up next. When I was in school at the time, that was in the fraternity house. We'd all get together and watch it on Sunday nights. It became like a thing. All the others were up there. I'm hard to say what I would put in the bottom slot. Sadly, it might be the Tracy Ullman Show. and I'm not sure why. I thought she was great. I thought she had a great cast, but I always thought the sketches were hit or miss. Sometimes they were very funny, and sometimes they weren't. Much
Yeah.
like any other sketch comedy show, which is why I other than SNL, I don't watch sketch comedy to this day. So I think I don't know what it was, but that show just did not grip me. Now, of course, that show gave us The Simpsons, so its importance to American television can't be underrated. But I just didn't watch it all that often.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was Tracy Ullman was probably one show that we watched every single week. So that kind of has a little bit more nostalgia appeal for myself. You would put you'd put Cops in there somewhere above.
Well, yes, because I used to watch Cops.
Okay.
When it came out, not religiously, but again, I didn't particularly care for. I suppose now that I think of it, I did enjoy Tracy Ullman's show more often than I didn't enjoy it. So, but when you get towards the bottom two shows, I mean, it doesn't really matter which one is on the dead last. You
Right,
know,
right.
um, it's basically a coin toss at that point.
Yeah.
But I mean, but I did watch both. There was nothing on there
But
that was
Married
a
with
bad show.
Children, yeah, there's no
That changed
yeah, there
television.
is not a bad show on there for sure.
Yeah, there's not a
But
bad show on
Married
that
with
list.
Children is like head and shoulders number one though for me. I mean, for you too, right? I mean, it's not like
Correct.
it's not like we're competing for number one. Like, well, it's a
No.
close one. No, Married with Children
Head
still to this day is hilarious. You
and
know,
it changed television. It changed, and you can't underappreciate that. There was
yeah,
before. They had done these sort of anti sitcom before, but not like Married with Children. Married with Children. There was before Married with Children and after Married with Children.
right, right.
Oh, and Sean Ennis goes on to point out Rhonda Shears and Up All Night. She certainly was. She replaced Carolyn Schlitt, who I never found out what happened to her. Gilbert Gottfried stayed on, but never found out why they got rid of Carolyn Shear. I mean, Carolyn Schlitt. Carolyn Schlitt.
Mm.
Let's just see what else we got going on here. Sean Ennis goes on to say the article I read listed another survivor in California, but they could be wrong. Of course, you might be right. The source I may have had may be wrong. Just be prepared if it turns out he was the last. By the way, as far as we're talking about the survivor of the Arizona. Oh, and Tug brought up Ted Hold puts flagged by Toho in giant bold text over clips. That's right, he did do that. You'll see like the outer frame, but it'll say flagged by Toho right across. It's actually very funny in a sad kind of way. And let's see what else we got going on here. Oh, Shannon says Zoe Deschanel in 500 Days of Summer. I did not know that.
Yeah, she plays the opposite, the female lead. Yeah, she plays Summer.
Check. Crossing the Door says Florence Henderson never really did anything. Alice was always doing all the work. He's right. Cindy D says Married with Children was supposed to be the anti-Cosby. In fact, when they were conceptualizing it, wasn't the working title not the Cosby Show?
Yes, yep, that definitely was.
Cindy D. I bite my tongue. Tracy Rothmeyer says Nighters Kenneth.
Oh,
I guess Kenneth's going to sleep. Yeah.
All right. Good night, Kenneth.
Let's see what else we got. Holy cow! I think we're caught up.
Goodness. This is an AMA. If you want to know anything, let me know.
Tracy Rothmeyer says AMW was great. AMW.
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 What is AMW?
Is it a place that sells root beer?
I know that's A&W.
W, yeah. I'm going to backtrack a little bit to see. I know it's an abbreviation of something, but I don't know what AMW is. Feel free to put it in the post. Tom Lemery says, Cindy D, absolutely, and I think it lasted longer than Cosby, referring to Married with Children. I want to say 11 seasons Married with Children lasted. I want to say I don't think Cosby lasted that long. So
I did a 5 things you didn't know about Married with Children, and I talked about how many seasons there were, but I don't remember. It's like I keep those things in my brain. Some things stick in my brain, and then some things just don't.
Zupac says sad ending for Gilbert Gottfried, definitely.
Yeah, that was sad. But an underrated show, not underrated at the time, was the Gary Shandling show. That was a good show.
It was.
Yeah.
Zupac says, boy, T-Pons is really backed up. Yes, I was, but I think I've caught up. And then Tug goes on to say, if we keep this chat going, they can never stop because they'll never catch up. ENC stream forever.
Thank you. Yes.
And Tom Lemery says, Charlie's Angels, Kate Jackson was up for the Meryl Streep role in Kramer versus Kramer, but couldn't because of. Oh, that sucks.
Because of V.
I'm assuming because of Charlie's Angels. They wouldn't let her out of her contract. As you know, Burt Ward was up for the part of the jerk Robinson's son, and not Robinson's son. The main character in The Graduate. And he got it and everything, and they said, no way, we're not letting you out of your contract to do this movie. And to this day, he feels as though if he had gotten The Graduate, he would have had a career like Dustin Hoffman.
Okay. All right.
I think he might be a little generous to himself, but that being said, I'm sure it would have opened doors that weren't open to him. So
yeah, that would have been a sad one to miss.
That's a big hit. And of course, Dustin Hoffman was in both Kramer versus Kramer and The Graduate, so it's sort of the Dustin Hoffman curse. Zupac says, nice to see ENC has fixed his StreamYard problems because T-Pons is back reading the comments. Yes, he did, and I'm very happy that you were able to. Tom says, still here and listening, so glad you're still with us. Oh, Cindy D has a request. Can you do a 5 things you didn't know about the Cosby Show, ENC? Thank you. Well, there's one thing we all know about the Cosby Show now, isn't there? I'm sorry. That was terrible. Yeah. I'm sorry. The devil made me say that.
I might be retiring the 5 things you didn't know for a little while. Not that I'll never do it again. It's just that I've got a bunch of list of things that I'm doing that's going to follow the one that I did with the Jason Bateman format. Like I said, the next one I'm going to do is like the real reason Vince Neil got fired from Motley Crue. I'm going to do some like on shows, like on movies too, like the reason an actor turned down a role, kind of a thing. I think that those are kind of catchy, and I want to follow that out a little bit more. But I'm definitely not done with the 5 things you didn't know. But I'm backed up on that too. I mean, I got like tons of those. So yes, for sure. I mean, I wanted to do one on almost every comedy show of the 80s.
Tug asks, which musician's passing hit you the hardest? For me, it would probably be Cobain. I know it's the predictable answer, but it's true. You go first.
Yeah, absolute 100% Kurt Cobain. Kurt Cobain was, I mean, he was my guy. He's the person probably I resonated with the most. And so I really, really hit me very hard. I still remember when I heard it, I walked in, Week in Rock was on. or it looked like something like the Weekend Rock, and they were playing a Nirvana thing on MTV. I was like, hey, Nirvana's on, da-da. And then Kurt Loder comes on and says, well, if you've never gotten a chance to see Nirvana live, you never will. I was like, what? And then, then the news hit, and it was seriously devastating for me. Yeah.
For me, hands down, it has to be John Lennon. I remember I woke up that morning. I had already gone to bed the night before. I was like in middle school, so my bedtime was like 9:00. So or ish. But I had crashed before the news broke. And I always remember I was on the bus going to school, being miserable. It was, it's like December, so you're so close to the Christmas break, you can taste it. And I remember the town bully, or at least my bus stop's bully. He got on the bus. He's now the town fire chief too, by the way. But anyway, he gets on the bus and he announces, "Oh yeah, John Lennon died." Or John Lennon was shot specifically. And he was famous for like just saying mean, antagonistic things just to try to make people feel bad. He would make shit up like that. And I thought he was joking. And I'm like, you are so, with a breathtaking impertinence. I said, you are so full of, and he actually got a little pissed, but he says, no, this is serious. I'm being serious now. And I was like, I couldn't get through my day. The Beatles, I could name all 4 Beatles before I could name all of my uncles. Yeah. Granted, I had more than 4 uncles, but I kind of grew up with the Beatles. Both of my parents were absolutely avid Beatles fans. And, I don't know if I told you this, watching Yellow Submarine on Thanksgiving was actually a tradition in my family. Right. So when John Lennon died, it was the day the music died for me.
Yeah. All right. Hang on. We got to do this one.
Oh, that was I had that one queued. Teb says, which 70s TV mom do you prefer better? Florence Henderson, Brady Bunch, Shirley Jones, Partridge Family, Marion Ross, Happy Days, Michelle Leonard, The Waltons, or Karen Grazel, Little House on the Prairie. It took me a second.
Yeah, it took me a second too. So the last one would be the Waltons one, because I just never, I always enjoyed the Waltons when it came on, but I just never watched it. Wasn't that. So that's going to take the number 5 position. I would say probably number 1 is going to be Brady Bunch, Shirley Jones. A Little House on the Prairie might take number 2. Because I watched Little House on the Prairie quite regularly, and I always enjoyed it, even though it was more of a drama. I just always really enjoyed Little House on the Prairie. Probably Happy Days number 3, and then Partridge Family number 4. I always did like the Partridge Family, but I caught it more in the 80s and as a rerun than when it was actually on. And of course, Brady Bunch, I caught in reruns, obviously, too. But I just think I don't know. I can't beat the Brady Bunch for me. So Brady Bunch number 1, Little House on the Prairie number 2, Happy Days number 3, and number 2 and 3 might be tied. Because Happy Days, I really loved Happy Days, too. Who didn't love the Fonz? Who didn't love that mother character in there as well? So I'm kind of evaluating it all on that. And then obviously last would be the Waltons. What about you, Thrash?
Well, I always had kind of a soft spot for Shirley Jones because she was a single mom, and I was raised by a single mom. So I'm going to give her a few bonus points. So for sheer iron will, holding a very large family, because my mother was just me, and I was a handful. So for her to handle 5 on her own, even though they were all making money as musicians, I'm going to give Shirley Jones number 1. I'm going to give Marion Ross number 2, just because much as I like Florence Henderson, Marion Ross kind of did more of the actual parenting. Mrs. Brady, every now and then she was just going to go, oh, and she would get like flabbergasted and give talking to, but Mrs. Cunningham actually put in more of the effort. She actually did more of the day-to-day parenting than Mr. Cunningham, I thought. So I'm going to go with her for number 2. I will give Mrs. Brady number 3 because she was, in fact, great. I never watched the Waltons. I don't know why, because I was a huge nostalgia buff. But I watch it from time to time, but I really didn't get my teeth into it, so I'm going to have to make that the last one. So I'm going to go with Little House on the Prairie as second to last. Not that there was anything wrong with her, but just cultural relevance. They were 19th century, and I was, well, quasi 20th. So I think that holds there.
Right. I'm gonna hit one here that I saw. Let's see, because this caught my eye. Michael Hutchins. Yeah, that's probably another one that hit me pretty hard. I was a pretty big In Excess fan, actually. I loved In Excess. I still love In Excess, and not just the Kick album. The Kick album is still probably one of my favorite albums, quite honestly. That's one of those albums that I can listen to almost straight through. But their stuff before was good, and then a lot of their stuff afterwards, even though it didn't have the success of Kick in America, was still very popular in Australia and very good. And so Michael Hutchins dying, that sucked. That did suck.
I can certainly see that. No, Sydney brings up an excellent point. What about Florida Evans from Good Times, Terrell? You bring up an amazing point, and I also gave her extra points because while she started out as a mother in a nuclear family, she too lost her husband and became a single mother and had to make great sacrifices to keep her family going. Another single mother who I thought was great, although she was far more inclined to hit her children, was Mrs. Thomas from What's Happening. I thought she was an amazing mother. She was strong. She was fair. She was able to work under appalling conditions and maintain a very nice life for her children. Again, she did get the belt every now and then, but back then that was considered good parenting. Ask my father. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Mrs. Thomas is up there too. And let's not gloss over Mrs. Jefferson. I know by the time they became a show, Lionel was a grown-up, but I think she was an excellent mom and sort of woman of the house. Yeah. So I want to make a point for each of those wonderful women of American sitcoms.
Yeah. Well, hey, we're gonna wrap it up here. We're getting to that hour and a half mark,
and I just froze. Holy cow! I made it almost to the end, and I froze
all the way to the end. And so I just want to say good night to everybody. Just want to thank everybody for participating. Can't really get on all of the. Let's read this last one for us here.
Okay, because I can still read. Tom Memory says the same for Lee Majors when he was on Big Valley. He was supposed to be in Midnight Cowboy in John Voight's role. Are you kidding? That's amazing. Agree about Burt. Burt wouldn't have carried it as well as Dustin Hoffman. Thank you, Tom. You're right.
Yeah. That's interesting thoughts. All right. Well, everybody. Well, hey, 420 just said he just subscribed to you, Thrash.
Oh, thank you, 420.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for all the new subscribers, and thank you for all the old subscribers. And just want to say how much I appreciate you all, love you all. And it's been awesome to be here with you this evening. Do have to go though, so good time's got to come to an end at some point. So good night, everybody. Take care. Go with God.
Good night, everyone. Peace.